It's close to home. The following is an exclusive presentation of Cablevision local programming, TV that's close to home.
There is a runoff for the election of the Central Ward Councilman in Newark. Your candidates next on Cablevision's Meet the Leaders. Hello and welcome to Cablevision's Meet the Leaders. I'm Jeff Hennig. Joining us on the show today are the two remaining candidates in the Central Ward race in the city of Newark. Because no candidate received more than 50% of the vote, the charter of the city of Newark indicates that a runoff be held 5 Tuesdays from the original election. That Tuesday is June 15th. And joining us today is incumbent Charles Bell and challenger Darrin Sharif. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
There are no real guidelines for the next half hour. I will ask a series of questions that each of you will have a chance to respond to. I may or may not ask a follow-up question, and even though there is no formal timekeeping, we do ask you to be respectful of the length of your answers because we will try to hit as many topics over the next 30 minutes as possible. So let's begin. First up, of course, is the budget. Now that the mayor has been re-elected, the bad news of the budget is starting to surface. Already we have seen the amount of furlough days double. Please give us specific items that you would support cutting or reducing to help balance Newark's budget. Mr. Sharif, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, it's difficult for me to answer that question because I don't have the information that my opponent has. I've been working in the administration, have been part of it. But what I will do is get the submissions from all of the department heads and work very closely with them and the mayor to see where the cuts should be. But what the viewer should know is that the administration and this council person had the information about layoffs well before the first election and chose not to share that information with the public until the election was over. And right after the election, of course, people started to become aware that they were being laid off, and there were a couple of articles, in fact, in the Star Ledger about employees who said they would like to have been given time to prepare. But no question, the projected budget deficit is about $100 million, and we will look at everything possible and only make the absolute necessary cuts. The police and the fire, those are most important areas in the city, and we'll do everything we can to preserve the number of firemen and policemen that we lay off.
Okay, Mr. Bell, what do you think? Some specific items to cut or reduce?
Well, the country is in very serious financial trouble. The state of New Jersey is in most serious financial trouble. Therefore, the city of Newark is suffering a very severe budget crisis at this time. I, for one, feel that as it relates to furloughs and the police and firemen and so forth, I think that whatever decisions are made must be done equitably and fairly across the board.
Okay, you've both kind of touched on what my follow-up was going to be relating to police or fire layoffs. You think either of those, are they ever going to be put on the table?
I think that police and firemen will eventually have to be put on the table, because that's where the money is, with police and firemen, more so than sanitation and clerical employees.
Mr. Sharif, you touched on that also.
Yeah, I think everything has to be put on the table. But again, this administration, this council, they should have been doing more aggressive and vigorous planning and discussion, consultation, and informing those individuals who they knew well in advance were going to be laid off, that it was a possibility. I can't overemphasize how important clear communication is, not only within the administration, between the administration and the council, but also with those employees who are affected. So when I become Central Council, I want to make sure, once we make those difficult decisions, as quickly as possible, I will let employees who are going to be impacted by those layoffs, let them know so they can make proper and adequate preparations to move on once they leave city government.
Okay, let's move on. Staying on the topic of the budget, some people say that municipal budgets will get better when the economy gets better. But in the meantime, how do we create the environment in Newark for job growth? Mr. Bell, let's start with you.
Well, for job growth, for one, the City of Newark has initiated a plan that involves the Board of Education, the Newark Housing Authority, as well as the City of Newark. And anytime a contractor comes in to do work for the Housing Authority or the Board of Education, we will mandate that a certain percentage of the work go to Newark employees.
Hey, Mr. Sharif, how would you encourage job growth?
Right. You have to, and Mr. Bell, the last time we were on this forum in the studio, indicated that we can do one of two things, either raise taxes or we can lay off people. Mr. Bell left off an important component, revenue generation. A valuable asset that Newarkers own but don't know about is the port, and it's been mismanaged for quite some time by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I would have liked this council and my opponent especially to be aggressively engaging the Port Authority. There is millions and millions of revenue, millions of dollars in revenue that are generated at the port, and the city and the council have no idea the amount of that revenue because we get a percentage of gross revenue from activities at the port. And so although we're going to have to make these difficult cuts, one could easily argue how fewer cuts and layoffs we'd be making now had we engaged the port in 2002 and gotten our just fair of jobs and other revenue from that asset that we own.
Gentlemen, let me ask you this. What role does job training play? Has that been effective in Newark in past years?
Yes, the City of Newark has a most effective job training program. For instance, recently with the demolition of Douglas Harrison homes, the City of Newark initiated a job training program whereby the asbestos workers were trained. They are not only trained to do asbestos removal, but they are also members of the union who are now making $49 an hour. So it becomes more than just a job. They train people for careers.
Mr. Sharif, any
Yes,
thoughts on job
training is absolutely important, but again, Jeff, you have to have jobs that these individuals are able to go to after they receive the training. The City of Newark has this fund called the Grow Newark Fund, and it provides low-interest capital to individuals who want to start business. I'm a big proponent of micro businesses, so we should not only have development in the Central Business District downtown, we should have development in the neighborhoods in the Central Ward. I can see easily how you can use that fund to seed and to start, for example, a landscaping firm or a small bakery, because every study that you look at demonstrates that when you create small businesses in the city, those owners of those businesses are more likely to hire Newark residents. So again, you have to be ready for an opportunity once it presents itself, but we have to use all the assets that we have available to us to create jobs for Newark residents to go to once they complete their job training.
Yeah, Mr. Sharif had mentioned something about the port program. The City of Newark has been aggressively involved in the Newark Career Business Development Center in Port Newark for the past 2 or 3 years. And the City of Newark has been moving toward making partnerships on a global and a national level.
Okay, let's move on. As the budget shrinks, so does help for the most vulnerable citizens in both the ward and the city as a whole. Tell us again what your ideas are to help senior citizens, in this case specifically within your ward. Mr. Sharif, let's start with you.
I had been, this is the first time in 35 years that senior citizens have not gotten their cost of living increase in Social Security. And during the course of this campaign, I had started a campaign in every senior citizen trying to lobby our Congress to pass that increase so that they can receive it. Also, I'm the Director of Operations at the Urban League of Essex County. We get a gigantic grant from the Department of Labor to provide job training and placement for seniors. And it's unfortunate, Jeff, in these difficult times that seniors can't relax and enjoy their golden years. But at the Urban League, where I monitor and work with this program that we provide very closely, and again with this campaign, I'm trying to put more money in seniors' pockets so that they will be able to spend and to be able to deal with the difficult economic times that we face.
Hey, Mr. Bell, I see you nodding your head there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm nodding my head because Mr. Sharif is going to put more money into the pockets of senior citizens by passing some kind of enabling legislation for Social Security. He ought to stop.